Well, have you heard the news? The Republicans in the House have secured the majority after this election. They now are projected. The operative word is projected, to have secured control of the United States House of Representatives. Thank goodness they lost the Senate. We still control it. The people still control the Senate. And there's a very important Senate race happening in Georgia. Please vote for Raphael Warnock. You know, have you ever been in an elevator and you push, say the building has 4 floors, and you push floor number 4. And the elevator stops at 2. And maybe you're like, oh, maybe I accidentally pushed 2. You push 4 again. And the elevator just stays on floor 2. I think we can all clearly tell that the elevator doesn't go up to the top with Herschel Walker, right? He's talking about wanting to be a werewolf. He thought he was a police officer and flashed a fake badge. He wants to be everything but a credible United States senator. I think, Georgia, you already have someone who's doing a lot. Stick with someone who actually wants to do the job. Remember the last time America hired someone for an important elective office who didn't seriously take the job? Credible. Remember the outcome of that? Please do, Georgia. That being said, the Republicans now are projected to have control of the House of Representatives. Now, important date to keep in mind is January 3rd, 2023. This is when the full House of Representatives will vote on a new Speaker of the House. We know it won't be the current Speaker, Nancy Pelosi. Kevin McCarthy is hoping it will be him. We shall see. It's a possibility because the Republican projected majority is so tiny that it could be someone outside of Kevin McCarthy. Now, I personally encourage Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger of Virginia to run for Speaker of the House. She's a moderate. She represents a swing district. Very, very competitive swing district. And she's one of the most ethical members of the United States House of Representatives to ever serve. If there was an extra bone in that woman's body, it would be an ethics bone. She single-handedly went against her entire caucus leadership and said we need to put in place prevention standards for inside trading for congressional members. That was something that her own caucus was against. And she said it needs to get done. Police reform. When it looked dead in the water, she got it done. So she's not just about the talk. She actually does the legislative work. And that's why I think it would be a very well managed and run House with a Speaker Spanberger. So that's who gets my vote. If I was a House of Representative member, I would vote for Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger to be the Speaker on January 3rd. Now, some people have said, oh, maybe the person should come from outside of the congressional delegation in the House as it currently stands. Now, I have thought about that because according to the rules, you don't have to be a serving or sitting member of the House of Representatives to be the Speaker. I have thought, who would be the perfect individual? A consensus person, a moderate, somebody who's just going to manage the affairs and really work towards getting things done in the country. Not be super partisan, not do away with proxy voting. Look, the Republicans are saying they're going to do away with proxy voting, which is if you're back in your legislative district, you can vote without being on the House floor. Now, the majority can do what they want because it was a rule that Speaker Nancy Pelosi rightfully chose to do as a COVID-19 mitigation policy and strategy. Here's why I think getting rid of proxy voting is a little stupid. Both parties have a lot of elderly members. Anyone can get sick or have a loss in their family. Something can happen in their congressional district. And rather than them have to try to miss work or not be present for an important vote, proxy voting allowed you to be in your legislative district and still do your work. Look, all of Americans have learned the benefits and the rigors of working from home. We've adapted to the times we live in. To say that the House of Representatives, you have to be on the House floor in order to do your affairs and business, it makes no sense. We have the internet. We have cell phones. So they can choose to do what they want. I just think they're nitpicking, and they're probably really going to down the road regret getting rid of proxy voting. This is a problem. Everything does not have to be partisan. Proxy voting benefited Democrats and Republicans. Do you know a lot of Republicans, even though they've complained about proxy voting, have actually used it more than the Democrats have? Members of the House love proxy voting. Even the members who criticize it have used it quite a bit. Now, who goes around saying something is unnecessary and criticizes something that they've used not once, not twice, not 3 times, but sometimes, in some cases, 20 or 30 times? This is what hypocrites do. So go ahead, get rid of proxy voting. I think they're going to regret that down the road if they do it. It's up to them. They're in the majority. They run the House. Maybe. We'll find out January 3rd. Anyway, they've talked about subpoenas. Now, does anybody know what a subpoena is? A subpoena is a document that you send someone requesting their participation in an investigation. And the Republicans have already announced that they plan to have so many congressional investigations. One of the first things they said when they were projected to win the House is on their official handle, the GOP House. They said, we now have subpoena power. Do you know what that is? I said, I do. But do you know what it is? Look, they're now saying subpoena power is the best thing since sliced bread. But for the past 2 years, they've been running from subpoenas. Literally, hopping in their vehicles. The Texas Attorney General, Ken Paxton, when they came to serve him a subpoena, his wife got in a pickup truck and he hopped in the passenger side, and they drove off before the guy could get there to the door and hand them the subpoena. He did a Bonnie and Clyde. And these are the folks telling me about subpoenas? And now they have the power to subpoena? Having multiple members of the Republican Congressional Committee gone on a show, The War Room, run by Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon is the architect of the lunatic from Mar-a-Lago becoming president. Anyway, he's been subpoenaed. And, you know, he's been fighting this subpoena for quite some time now, claiming executive privilege. Now, when you're a member of the executive branch, there are some things that are confidential, and you can claim executive privilege to get out of a subpoena, get out of an investigation. The only problem with that is Steve Bannon was never a part of the executive branch of the federal government. I know he likes to think as an outside advisor that he was part of the executive branch, but he was not. Now, I hear they're planning to subpoena a number of individuals and entities when they take control. I just wanted to tell them in advance, I don't think I'll be able to make your subpoenas. You see, I have ambassadorial privilege. A number of nations have said, hey, would you like to be an ambassador? And you know, you can't subpoena an ambassador. I haven't accepted any of them yet, I'll have you know. But you might as well shelve your subpoenas. You know, that's all we have to do. Make folks ambassadors, diplomats. Then they really will be able to get out of a subpoena. They'll be too busy doing work. They'll have diplomatic immunity. Do you know what diplomatic immunity is at House GOP? I do. Do you? New Zealand wants me back. I have to keep turning down New Zealand. I have to keep telling them, New Zealand, I'm an unofficial, official American. I just can't abandon these people and leave them in the lurch. They say they'll persecute you. I say, I know. They've done it all the time. But I can't leave the Americans in the lurch now. It's December. We might not have much longer to go anyway. They say, understandable. So many countries. But I really appreciate the offer. I really do. Look, here's why I'm not worried about subpoenas. And no one else should be either. The Republican House is going to do the same thing they've been doing, which is clown for the cameras. They're going to say they're doing all of these investigations and sending all of these subpoenas and asking for people to testify. And really, I want people to go and actually testify. If you get a subpoena, please do show up. You don't have to say very much. Don't incriminate yourself. Take the fifth and walk out the door. Look, they think I don't know the laws and the rules of this nation. I know them quite well. You can take the fifth and exit stage left. You don't have to say anything. And they can't make you say anything. Now, for those of you who are going to challenge the subpoena like Steve Bannon did, I got no problem with that route either, really. Who are they going to beg to abide by and enforce the subpoena? The corrupt DOJ? The DOJ they say Biden has corrupted? So they're going to send a subpoena. Look, see, I know how this works, Republicans. You're going to send the subpoena. People are going to say, I'm not showing up. So then you're going to send a recommendation to have them arrested to the DOJ. The DOJ is going to put it in the shredder and it's going to be shredded. because you're going to waste their time. They have a lot of real important investigations. You know, they have some really heavy investigations they're doing. Why were classified documents in the tool shed by the pool in the lunatic's home? That's one of their investigations. January 6th, all of those people who ran up in the Capitol, destroyed property, threatened to do grave bodily harm to the vice president. They gotta find those people. Figure out who paid for them to get there. Who they are. What their true intentions were. That's not over with. That's going to actually start heating up in 2023. You're going to see a lot of arrests of these insurrectionists. And they say, oh, it's not really sedition because nobody has been found guilty of sedition. Well, Brit Humes, that all changed, I think, the other day. Stewart Elmer Rhodes was found guilty of seditious conspiracy against the United States government. So Brit Humes, there's one, and I'm sure there's going to be more. Because you know the old saying, where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, the Republican Party, I just saw this today, said that they're going to investigate the January 6th committee. So they're going to investigate the committee that's investigating the attack on their building. Hey, look, they're in the majority, projected. They can do what they want. I think they're going to regret that. You know, I do regret that they didn't investigate one thing, the January 6th committee. And it's still a mystery to this day. But I have my own theories. Do you all remember the night before January 6th? You remember January 5th? John Alsop and Raphael Warnock had won the runoff elections in Georgia. People were excited, happy. The Democrats were going to control the Senate. Now, there was something else that happened on January 5th of 2021. A lot of people have forgotten this. But I think it was hugely important. There was several pipe bombs planted. You all remember this story. There was a pipe bomb planted at the DNC headquarters. And then somebody left a pipe bomb near the RNC headquarters in D.C. Have any of you ever been to Washington, D.C.? The nation's capital. I'm very familiar with D.C. I love the place. It's quite nice this time of year. The Christmas trees, the snow. One thing I know about D.C., you can't leave things like pipe bombs just lying around and nobody sees it or knows you. No. That just doesn't happen in D.C. You know, I think they ought to have a congressional investigation in regards to that incident. Who was that pipe bomber? And how come they haven't planted any more pipe bombs since? You're telling me that you have a pipe bomber who isn't apprehended as of yet, unknown to this day, that plants one bomb outside the DNC headquarters and another outside the RNC headquarters. And they haven't planted any bombs since? Done anything since? As the kids would say, it sounds mighty suspicious, doesn't it now? You see, I looked at the picture of the pipe bomb. You couldn't see the face. They're wearing a mask. But you can't mask your body now, can you? I mean, you can with certain clothes, which the pipe bomber went out of their way to wear baggy clothes, which was also odd. I was like, those clothes don't fit the individual. So they're not clothes that the individual wears often. I can tell when people wear baggy clothes as a style, and when people wear baggy clothes to disguise themselves. That was definitely worn to disguise themselves. Then I started looking at the shoulders. I said, these shoulders, they kind of look weird. You know, it's just a theory. That's all it is. I kind of think that the pipe bomber was a woman. Yeah, I kind of think the pipe bomber was a woman. I don't think it was a male. And I tell you why. They were a little too meticulous. They said the second pipe bomb was left on a bench near the headquarters. Now, it's just my opinion, but I don't think a male would have gotten scared and not put that pipe bomb near the headquarters. The reason I believe it was left on the bench was because the person got scared that they might be seen doing something suspicious. And they didn't want to put it near the actual building infrastructure. You see, this was done as a decoy operation to draw in law enforcement the next morning to pipe bombs, whilst insurrectionists were attacking the Capitol. So this operation was directly correlated and linked to January 6th and the insurrection. So whoever this individual was clearly a supporter of the insurrection. Now, in order to know where buildings are located, the best spot to hide something, you kind of have to be familiar with DC. DC is an easy city to get lost in, or to run into the wrong types of issues if you're not familiar with the city. Whoever this was very familiar with the schematics of DC. So I think we're looking for someone who either lives in the Capitol or knows the Capitol very well. Now, here's where the theory gets really wild. Do you all remember Marjorie Taylor Greene coming out of the White House and saying, I just got finished meeting with the President of the United States, and we have a plan in place for what we're going to do to contest the election tomorrow, January 6th. And then the pipe bombs happened that night, right? Now, here's my theory. It is highly likely and possible that the pipe bomber was a member of Congress or a staffer to the member of Congress. Highly likely. Because you would have to know where the RNC and DNC building is. Even if you're a troublemaker and you come to DC early, you don't necessarily know where the RNC and DNC building headquarters are. That's something that members of Congress and staffers are going to know more about than some bum insurrectionist who's in a hotel being paid for by, we don't know yet. But we're going to find out very soon, I think. You know, I wonder if Kevin McCarthy knows who the pipe bomber is. House GOP, you're going to have to do an investigation. We want to know who this pipe bomber was. I have a gut feeling that it's a member of Congress or a congressional staffer to a member of Congress. And if it's a congressional staffer to a member of Congress, they would have had to have known the member of Congress that their staffer was doing this. They can't claim ignorance as Ron Johnson did when his chief of staff was going to deliver an envelope of fake electors to the vice president. You remember Ron Johnson said, I don't have anything to do with that. I didn't know. Even though this is his chief of staff. What a liar. So if we know that members, chiefs of staff to senators were willing to give fake electors to the vice president, it's highly possible that a member of Congress or a staffer set the pipe bombs as a decoy, distraction, outside the RNC and DNC headquarters on January 5th. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. I want an investigation. I'm a citizen. I can demand an investigation. And I'm demanding it. We want to know who uses terror in this country as a legitimate political means. We want to know. I think we should get to the bottom of it. And seeing as Republicans are eager for congressional investigations, I think this is only fitting that they would throw this one in the pot as well. You think they will? I don't think they will. Anyway, it's not for them to do it, because I know they won't. It's for you to hear it, because I know you will.